One of the challenges that people face when it comes to UX research is finding the right people to talk to. And that is what I'm going to talk about in this episode of the podcast. Some approaches to finding people, when you can use them, how to use them, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's get into it. If you do some kind of research, you know that talking to the right people is very, very important. And I'm focusing on qualitative research approaches, right? So talking to the right people is very, very essential. Otherwise, you're not going to get insights that are actually useful for what you want to do. And one of the challenges people have is how to find those people. And so I'm going to talk about 5 approaches that you can use, and from least expensive to most expensive, and how you can actually use them. So 4 of these approaches can be used whether you have a user base already or not. And the last one is only applicable if you have a user base, because then you can use your user base. So I'm going to talk about the 4 in order from least expensive to most expensive, and then I'll talk about recruiting from your user base at the end. So number 1 way that you can recruit is through a process called snowballing, or using online communities. So I'm going to batch those 2 together as one point. And what this means is that you look for someone or a group of people who fit into that audience. You can ask your family members to help you find someone, or your friends to help you find someone who fits into that audience, and then you can talk to that person and then ask that person to connect you with other people who fit into that audience, and on and on. And that's why it's called a snowball. You start with one person and then it keeps going on and rolling, and then it becomes a snowball. That's the concept. And another way to use snowballing is to check out online communities. You look for an online community. There's so many. There's on Reddit, there's on Facebook. In some cases, you have to ask for permission from the moderator of that community and be able to say, oh, I want to talk to people who do XYZ. Send me a message if you fit into this category. So one time I used this was one of my earlier research projects, actually. I was doing research for a product that was supposed to help law school students. And I could have done a screener form and posted it on my social media, which is another way. But I remember that I have a friend who went to law school and had graduated. So I asked her that, did she know anyone who was currently in law school? And then she connected me to those people, and I spoke to that one person, and that one person connected me to other people, and I was able to do the research for the team that was trying to build something for law school students, and it went very great. So this method is especially helpful for when you have very difficult to find groups, or for very specialized groups that you may know off the top of your head have immediate access to. Number 2 approach is using social media. If you have extra budget, you can use targeted ads on social media. Otherwise, you can just post on your social media saying you want to talk to people for research. You can either post a screener, asking people to fill the form. Obviously, you don't tell them that's a screener. You just tell them to fill the form, and that you reach out to them if you want to continue for whatever approach you want to talk about. You can also run targeted ads if you have additional budgets. Facebook is really good for targeted ads. People who do a particular thing or have some particular thing in their lives. Maybe you're looking for people who sell online, so maybe you want to do an ad for people who use Facebook Marketplace, for example. Or you can post, just invite people to come into your office on social media. I mean, not just everyone, but you ask people to fill a form, and then you can invite them to come to your office, or you go to them, or you do a remote interview, or whatever other method you want to use. Sometimes you can even do, if you have a Figma prototype that you want to test, you can then send them the prototype if they pass through the screener that you have created. You can also use that to also even recruit people for moderated testing platforms, where you can bring in your own audience as well. So social media is a very good way to find people to talk to. You could also even do a search on whatever platform that you're on, maybe LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, to find accounts who have tweeted or posted certain keywords that relate to things that you know of your target audience, or you assume about them, and then reach out to those people directly. The same way journalists do, where they're like, I see that you're this kind of person, and I'm looking for this kind of people for a story I'm writing on this topic. So it's the same concept. Number 3 is guerrilla or intercept approaches. And what that means is you basically just go to where people are, right? So if you want to do research about a generic topic, and I've written about how to do guerrilla testing, and I will put a link to it in the show notes. But if you want to do something that is more general, more broad, that the audience is not like very specified and specific, more exploratory type things, you can go to a place that has like heavy foot traffic, like a mall, or if you're in a country where the airport is easily accessible, like the airports, like in Nigeria, the airport is not easily accessible. You can't just go to the airport. But here in Amsterdam, where I live now, I can literally just go to the airports because there's like a plaza attached to it, and people can actually just go to the plaza area of the airport. So those kinds of places where there's heavy foot traffic, where you can stop people for a moment to ask them questions if they're willing to answer, or even test like paper prototypes or just very quick prototypes. This is not great for like long, intense kinds of research. You may find people who are willing to talk to you for 20, 30, 41, 60 minutes, but that's not very likely. So you can also use this for recruiting for like, if you feel this profile, if you're interested in talking some more, then give me your email or how I can contact you, or you give them your own email and you can continue the research from there. This is also great. You can do intercepts on your website if you already have a website or something. So you can do an intercept on the website. It could be a pop-up survey. It could be actually inviting people to join a research panel that you're creating, right? So that is the third approach. And for the final two, we have recruiting firms, which is the most expensive type, or online panels. That's number 4. Recruiting firms and online panels are quite expensive, and depending on how specialized the audience you're looking for is, it can become more and more expensive. So most tools that have moderated and unmoderated usability testing or those kinds of functionality will usually have a panel that you can recruit from, and that can run you up some money depending on the kind of research you're trying to do. So if you're trying to do a simple prototype test that's not too long, it may cost you less than if you're trying to do something that is more intense. And some of those tools allow you to recruit people to talk to outside of the platform, and some of them don't. So the common ones are user interviews, listener, user testing, user Zoom, which are very expensive. Discount, which is really great for diary studies as well, and you can also bring your own audience onto these platforms. And then there are firms that are like specialized in doing this kind of recruiting for, especially for difficult to reach audiences. And the final one is your user base. If you already have a user base, if you have people already using your product, you can just like send them emails inviting them to participate in some kind of research, or on in-app you can also use that to recruit, sending a small pop-up message, not like covering the whole screen and interrupting whatever they're doing, but like well-timed and well-placed pop-up links where you can invite them to join the panel. And I did this in a previous place that I worked at, sent an email to the entire user base inviting them to join the panel, and about 5,000 people joined the panel. And so we had a very good source of people to keep contacting for different kinds of research. And so in that form they told us like what kind of research they were interested in, if they would like to come into the office, or if they prefer for remote research approaches. So yeah, to summarize, the 5 ways, from least expensive to most expensive: snowballing and online communities, number 1; number 2, social media; number 3, guerrilla and intercept approaches; number 4, recruiting firms and online panels; and number 5, your user base. Your user base only applies if you already have a live product that people are using. Bye. A quick reminder that I am accepting questions for the podcast. If you have any questions that you'd like me to cover, any things that you'd like me to talk about, please fill the form. I'm going to put the question form in the show notes. So yeah, bye. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of A Couple of Things. If you enjoyed this episode or found any part of it insightful, don't forget to share with your friends on your social media, and be sure to leave a comment or a review if you can on your podcast listening app. Thank you.